Welcome to the Marcus Freeman Show.
Presented by TireRack.com. I'm your host, Tony Simeone, joined by the 30th head coach in Notre Dame football history, Marcus Freeman. Coach, excited to have you along for this year. This game you guys had in Columbus, it's all we talked about for 8 months. I know you guys didn't get the result that you wanted, but how did you assess the way your team competed in the Horseshoe?
Well, I was extremely proud of their effort, the way they really competed the entire game. I was proud of our coaches and the way they prepared our players. You know, when you look at the game, and really for about 3 quarters, it was a ball game. We were up 10-7 with 16 seconds or 15 seconds left in the third quarter, and we didn't finish the way we wanted to, but I was really happy with the foundation this team has built.
I'm always curious about a locker room after a game like that. As the head coach, what's your message to them, and what was the demeanor like of the team after the game?
It's never easy. Those guys are competitors. We all are competitors, and when you don't get the outcome that you aspire to achieve, then there's not many words that you can say to make anybody feel better. But I told him I was proud of him. I told him my honest assessment was we didn't finish the game the way we needed to. It wasn't a lack of effort. It wasn't a lack of energy. It was just a lack of execution, and that we have to move forward. That we never said it was going to be easy. We all have goals, and these goals are going to be really hard to achieve, but that's why we've all chose Notre Dame, and we look forward to continue this climb.
Coach, appreciate it. When we come back, we'll break down the entire season opener between Notre Dame and Ohio State on this week's edition of
The Marcus Freeman Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com.
It's now time for this week's game breakdown as we go inside the game between Notre Dame and Ohio State in the season opener. Coach, you had 8 months to prepare your message to the team before they ran out in the Horseshoe. I'm curious, what was your message before your team ran out?
Well, I think one thing we've been hitting is it's 53 1/3 by 120, and that's what matters, is that the execution in between those white lines is really what's going to dictate the outcome of this game, and it's what did. And again, I love their focus. They were fired up. There wasn't anything I needed to say to get them fired up. It was really for them to understand it's just one play at a time. We say it all the time, one play, one life. Continue to put all your effort and emotions and energy into this play, but as soon as this play's over, you got to move on to the next one. And so that's kind of the message as we got ready to take the field. It wasn't go win one for the Gipper speech. They were fired up. It was more focused on what it's going to take to win this game.
Short of a touchdown on the first play, I thought your offense got you about as good of a start as you could have asked for. Tyler Buckner stood in there, took a hit on a corner blitz, and you guys picked up 54 yards on the first play of the game. What'd you see on that play, and what were you happy with offensively on the first drive?
Yeah, they brought a corner pressure. They brought the boundary corner there to bring some pressure to start the game, and again, Tyler stood in there and took a shot. He took a shot, which ultimately was a penalty, and Zoe made somebody miss, which is, again, you got a chance as a skill position athlete to make somebody miss, you got to make them miss, and he took it down, and I started to hold my breath, just making sure that hold on to the ball. Ball security matters, because I knew somebody from behind was going to try to knock it out, but that gave us a great confidence builder as we started moving forward and ultimately made a field goal. Blake Groupie did a great job of making that field goal and got the game going.
I want to ask you about Blake, because of course Jonathan Dorr was here for so many years and he made some big kicks for this team, but to get Blake out on the field, get one under his belt early, how big was that for you guys, just to know, okay, our kicker's ready and he's settled into this season?
I think that was a huge confidence builder, not for Blake. Blake's a confident kid, but really for us as a coaching staff and our team to say, okay, Blake's ready to go no matter what the stage is, and he did a great job, and we decided to punt late in the game. I can't remember what quarter it was, but we were in plus territory, but I wanted to win the battle of field position, so we decided to punt instead of go for a 50-plus yard field goal. And I remember him coming up to me like, Coach, whatever's best for the team, but just know I can make that. And I said, all right, Blake. So he doesn't lack confidence, but I think that kick helped everybody have more confidence in him.
I want to ask you about the defensive side of the ball, of course. First couple series you guys are out there, you look phenomenal. And coming into this game, everyone knew about all the weapons on the Ohio State side of the ball. So those first couple of drives when you guys were really successful, what did you see and what were you happy with as far as the game plan being executed out there in the first few series?
Yeah, I thought they did a great job of just staying poised, and Ohio State hit a couple passes. We got a PI, they gained a little bit of yards, and they were still poised, and they were able to continue to tackle and continue to execute, and give them different looks defensively in the pass game, and I think that was something that Coach Golden, our defensive staff, did a great job of having a game plan with different looks in coverage. And so I was really pleased with with the way we played for the majority of the game. And obviously those last 2 series, we didn't tackle, we didn't execute the way that we had been doing most of the game. But it's something to build from, and I love the start that we had.
They picked up a touchdown there in the first quarter, but it's 7-3 when you guys had the ball, and you really put together your best offensive drive there, end of the first quarter, early second. I want to talk about 3rd and 2. You guys come out, and Tyler Buckner lets it rip, and Matt Salerno makes an amazing catch. But first, what went into that call that Tommy Rees drew up to kind of take a shot down the field, and then talk me through the great catch and the acrobatic play?
Yeah, that was a situation where, it was questionable, would we go for that on 4th down? It was right in that fringe area. You know what, Tommy saw something in their defense where he wanted to take a shot to Salerno, and Matt made a heck of a catch. And, he's a dependable guy. That's the one thing you know about Matt, is that he's going to do his job. And he made a big play that obviously kept that drive going, and which ultimately led to a touchdown.
Audric Estime was the guy that ran it in. I know maybe for the whole game you guys didn't run the ball as effectively as you'd like to this season, but when the running game was working, what did you see that you liked from Audric and the rest of the running back group?
Well, the ability for Audric always to fall forward, that's something that's huge. And you don't see him get tackled for many negative yardage plays just because he's a bulldozer. And he ran the ball hard. They gave us some different looks. They did some things. They moved the front. They pressured. They did some things that we had to adapt and adjust to. And I'm happy with the adjustments that our offense made. There was some really positive parts of that game that we were able to run the ball. And it's hard sometimes when the defense knows you're going to run the ball. And that's okay, because I kept saying, Tommy, keep running the ball. Run the ball and milk the clock, because that was one of our keys to making sure we had success. And so I'm really pleased with what our offense did. We'll have to continue to enhance what we do and get better. But for what we asked them to do for that part of the game, they did a great job.
So it was 10-7 after you went in. I thought, again, the defense was really phenomenal the rest of the half. You had a couple times where you got big stops. Ultimately, that final drive or final defensive series, you guys got off the field on 3rd and 6, at least forced them to try a 39-yard field goal that they missed. So what was the intensity like and energy like on the sideline when you guys managed to take the lead into halftime?
It was a confident feeling, in that their kicker was almost automatic. For him to miss that, I think it gave a little bit more momentum for our defense and our team, and to go into halftime up 10-7 versus number 2 team in the country was big. And as I remind them in the locker room that, this is the same situation we're in versus Oklahoma State. We're up 14 points, but we had to be able to go out in the second half and continue to execute. And again, we did that for a part of the second half, the 3rd quarter, but we did not finish the way we wanted to. But I was really pleased with the way we performed that first half.
I want to ask just specifically, when you're in a locker room like that and you've got the lead, and I saw your press conference last week when a lot of people were saying, hey, this might be a 17-point game when you were looking at the spread, and you have the lead. What's the message to the team to try to finish in the final 30 minutes?
Well, it's the same thing that you said going out there. Still 53 in the third by 120. It's about execution. It's about going out there and one play, one life, doing your job. And you can't say something at halftime and all of a sudden you don't say at the beginning of the game. It's still because you had success, right? And it's not a lack of motivation. They'll be ready to go. But it was about going out there that second half and playing the game with effort, enthusiasm, but execution. And again, that was ultimately what cost us at the end of the game.
I'm sure at this point you guys have had a chance to go back and watch and look at some of the areas. I want to ask about the one drive that I thought was a chance for you guys to maybe add some more points. You guys got the ball, you mentioned it earlier, into plus territory, I think to about their 35-yard line, and then 3 plays that go for no gain or back you up and you had to punt. When you look back at that drive, especially as you get ready for the next 11 games this year, what will you guys try to improve upon so that you can go get those points and take that lead?
Yeah, I think you get the ball at the plus 35. You get the ball to the plus 35, and there's 2 things that come to my mind is that we have to have faith in our kicker to be able to make a 50-yard field goal, and that he can make a field goal from that distance. But also it's just that we can't have negative yardage plays. We can't back it up. I think the ball got to maybe the 37, or close to the 37-yard line, which made a little bit longer field goal. But we got the ball on the plus 35. We have to come out with 3, but hopefully 7 points. And so that's something that we got to continue to look at. Okay, what happened that first, second, third down that we weren't able to continue to get positive plays in whatever those situations where we have to fix them.
One of the plays that stood out too when you guys, the defense came back on the field, I heard you talk about it in your press conference this week as well, 3rd and 11, safety blitz, and they were able to beat you in single coverage over the top. When you look back at that play, What was the part that led to the touchdown for Ohio State?
Well, I think it starts with, if you're going to bring all-out pressure, which means you have no safeties, you're bringing safety pressure, and you're bringing more than they have to protect with. But you got to get home. That quarterback can't have time to set his feet and make a good throw like he did. And so it starts with the execution of the pressure. Then you look at the coverage, and we have to have inside leverage at the DB position. And again, you talk about a freshman and really a strenuous situation right there that again, he's young. He'll learn from that. That will be a play that Jaden Mickey doesn't forget. And again, it gave them the ability to go up 4 points, which again doesn't mean that the game's over, but it gave them the momentum because the next kickoff return, I think we gave our offense the ball inside the 15-yard line. And so we have to make sure in those moments, let's hold them to a field goal defensively. 3rd and 11, we should be able to hold them to a field goal, no matter what we call defensively. We have to be able to execute it. And then offensively, we got to be able to respond.
When they took that 14-10 lead, it was the first time they had a lead in a long time. You can tell they could kind of dictate terms a little bit differently. It's always funny, we watch the games through a Notre Dame lens, but you forget there's 2 teams on the field. And I thought when they had that drive at 14-10, 14 plays, 95 yards, Ohio State's a really good football team, and I think they showed everybody in the country that they were. What did you learn about really Ohio State on that drive when they put the game, to a 2-score game?
Yeah, I remember that drive, and there was a play that we had on 3rd and 3, and C.J. Stroud scrambling to the sideline, and I'm watching him to make sure we don't get a late hit because I know he's going out of bounds, and he kind of throws the ball up. And I look, and just to make sure that we don't get a late hit, and then all of a sudden I look back and they called it a completion. And you go back and you watch that play, man, and no wonder he's a Heisman Trophy candidate. The ability to make a couple of those throws right there on the sidelines, he's going out of bounds. The ability for their running back to make that type of catch, that's why they're special, and for them to continue to stack those plays and go 95 yards and score a touchdown, it shows you what type of offense they are. Their ability to run the ball and break tackles, their physical running backs got a good offensive line, but again, that's my challenge to our team, is that's where we want to be, if not better. And so what do we have to do as a Notre Dame football team in those situations to make sure we're the team that people are talking about? We're the team that is executing when we need it the most.
I know you said there's no moral victories, but the fact that your team went into that environment, competed the way they did on that stage against, as you said, Heisman hopeful, really high-powered offense. I know it's early in the year, but what do you think they can take away from that will benefit them going forward with this program?
Yeah, ultimately you had the number 2 team in the country really down 3 points, almost 3/4. That's what I think I want our team to understand, is that we got a chance to be really good, but we have to continue to get better. And we have to take the foundation we built from this game and improve on. And if we continue to do that as we progress throughout the season, I think this team can be special. And so what we can't do is have a lapse, and a lapse in preparation, a lapse in execution on game day. And so this team's gritty, they're tough, they want it. And so I look forward to seeing what we build off from that game.
More coming your way after this timeout. It's the Marcus Freeman Show, brought to you by the experts at TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's Irishography.
So, Jack, you guys didn't get the result you guys were hoping for in the season opener against Ohio State, but I thought the defense played really well throughout the night. Just what was your takeaway from your performance as a team there in the first game of the year?
Yeah, definitely proud of how we played. We opened the game and played hard and executed the game plan, and then, somewhere along the lines, didn't have that type of execution we wanted towards the end. So that part is frustrating. We preach, got to finish strong, and we didn't do that. So, it's just another thing to work on and make sure in practice, we emphasize that finish and execute it next time.
You've been here for a while now. You've actually had 3 different defensive coordinators the last 3 years. I want to ask you about Coach Golden. Obviously, he's been here since the offseason, but what's it been like to work for him and play under his leadership so far?
Yeah, he's a great guy, great coach to be under. Every day he's coming into the building with, what he calls juice and just bringing that energy. So it's really fun being under him. And then he has so much knowledge, being at the next level for so long and just, being around the game for so long, he has, a huge depth of knowledge that he's given to us, sharing us. And so just to have him on the sidelines too, and to see, his perspective of how the game flow is going and to take and implement it, it's a game changer. And so really excited to have him.
I want to ask you about your path to Notre Dame. So going back to before you got here, you're of course from the state. Just what led you to coming to Notre Dame? When did you know you wanted to come here, and what brought you to this place?
Yeah, I mean, my whole family was, a Purdue family, a bunch of Boilermakers. And so, I was really never tied to Notre Dame in any way whatsoever. But my dad and I came on to visit my sophomore year to the Miami, Ohio game, just to come and see. I'd never been on campus before. Just the whole atmosphere of the game day, right? Walking around campus, seeing the dome, seeing the trumpets under the dome, seeing the players walk, like it just changed my whole perspective on college football. And then the next week was the Georgia week. I got to come back for that game, and just being around everything and then meeting the people, and it was a pretty special moment to be able to come here and then to, just keep climbing and getting better every day and adding to my journey here has been very special.
Last question I have for you is, you guys are getting set for your home opener this week against Marshall. Just when you get a chance to run out of that tunnel at Notre Dame Stadium and you get to do it again this year, what goes through your mind as you think about that opportunity?
I mean, people from all over the country come to Notre Dame Stadium on a Saturday in the fall. It's special. The atmosphere that's around here, being around all the tradition and just hearing people, yell your name and cheer for you, it's extremely special. And so I'm fortunate I get to go down that, staircase and touch that sign. And so it just adds to that already special Saturday afternoon.
Awesome. Thanks for the time.
Yep. Thank you.
So Matt, you guys didn't get the result you guys were hoping for going into the Horseshoe, but the compete level was off the charts. Just tell me what your assessment was of the game and how you guys felt you performed.
I think we performed pretty well. Obviously, I have a lot of corrections we need to make. To be training for so long, the whole off season, all spring, all fall, all summer, for Ohio State. Obviously disappointing to not come out with the victory, but I think there's still a lot of good things in there, and then just, making small corrections on the other stuff.
I need to know, over 100,000 people in the Horseshoe, what was the experience like playing in that environment under the lights in prime time?
It was a pretty awesome experience. For us, we've played in a lot of big arenas, Virginia Tech, just a lot of loud environments. And we practice with all the noise all the time. So for us, it's just really another day at the office.
For you, you had that big catch on 3rd and 2, juggling catch down the sideline. Just talk me through the play and how you were able to bring that ball in.
Well, I saw the press coverage and, I had the big box fade, so I had a feeling it was coming to me because it was a good look. Once the ball was tipped, the first rule is I catch it or nobody catches it. So just try to keep my eye on it, concentrate on it, and, brought it down.
In the wide receiver position, you guys had a few injuries here and there. You had to step up in this game. What have you done throughout the offseason to kind of stay ready so that you're able to come into a big game like that and make a play when called upon?
In terms of staying ready, I really tried to train all spring, all summer, as if I'd be the starter. Through the years of 5 years of seeing receivers here, there's always a lot of attrition. People have hamstrings, people have injuries. So even if it didn't feel like I was going out to practice as a starter, I tried to train and prepare like I was a starter, and then, once the opportunity comes to go out there and perform, I was ready for it.
I want to go back a little bit then, before you came to Notre Dame, as you were kind of making your decision on where you wanted to go to school and play football. What drew you to Notre Dame?
Well, my grandfather came to Notre Dame back in the 50s, I think, and was here for a little bit. And so my family's always been diehard Notre Dame fans. Since the day I was born, every picture of me, I'm wearing something Notre Dame. So it's always been a dream to come here. And that's kind of just what drew me here.
What was the first Notre Dame game you went to then before you played here?
In 2009, we came to the opener. I think it was Nevada. That was the first game. I got an autograph from Golden Tate outside the locker room. He was my favorite player, so that's my first real, memory being here.
I want to know, we talked so much coming into this season about Ohio State. I think rightfully so. It's a huge matchup, but now that game's in the past. You guys have a whole season in front of you. What's really the focus going to be for this team as you get set to go on the rest of this campaign?
I think the focus, like what Coach Freeman always says, is one day, one life. And so for us, it's one play, one life, one game, one life, one day, one life. We made mistakes versus Ohio State. We look at that, we make corrections, but then it's, new week, new game. We're only focused on Marshall. Play Marshall, it's the next week is Cal, only focusing on one thing at a time and really just making corrections and then putting it in the past and moving forward.
More coming your way after this timeout. It's the Marcus Freeman Show, brought to you by the experts at TireRack.com.
It's now time for this week's edition of Irish Intel, where we go inside the play. Coach, we talked about it a little bit earlier. First play of the game. Hard to imagine it going much better. You're going to see a corner blitz here. Tyler Buckner diagnoses it, and he hits Lorenzo Styles for a huge first play of the game.
Yeah, this is a huge way to start off your season. And again, you see the corner blitzing here. We don't get a piece of 44 like we wanted to, but Tyler stands in there, throws a great ball to Lorenzo Styles, and he's able to keep the ball security and it's a big play. Makes a guy a safety miss, and it's a huge starter for our offense.
Is this the kind of thing where Tyler, if he sees that corner come down, he knows he's hot and he's just going to go to Lorenzo right away?
Yep, if you're able to read it, get the ball out, it's on automatic check.
All right, Coach, so here you got 3rd and 2. We talked about it a little bit earlier as well. You have the option to maybe go for it on 4th and 2. What's the discussion like as you guys decide to call this play and then ultimately take the shot down the field?
Well, you see it's the first play of the second quarter, and so now you're on a TV timeout. You're able to discuss this over the headset, and Coach Reese felt strongly about, hey, if they were going to stack the box and we get one-on-one with Matt Salerno here, we're going to take a shot. And again, that's a credit to Matt and the confidence he's built in our coaching staff and our team, and what you see is a great execution of what we want to do here and a great job of catching the ball here, staying focused on the ball, and making a huge play for our offense that leads to a score.
What kind of concentration does it take to make the play? You get a great look in slow-mo here, but look, this thing is all over the place and he manages to bring it in.
Yeah, I don't know if he wanted to have his mouth open like that, but the ability for him to, again, that's not an easy thing to do. And the ability for him to just continue to focus on that ball and bring it in, again, is a credit to Matt and Coach Stuck in the work they put in.
So, Coach, this last play here, I think it really illustrates the dynamic nature of Tyler Buckner. You're going to have him in the shotgun here. He's got a couple of options. Just talk me through how this play comes together and ultimately leads to the big pickup by Tyler.
Yeah, well, as you look at this, it's really like you're reading the defensive end. So you have 2 blockers. One is going to be for the first guy that shows up, the corner in this picture, and then the second blocker is going to loop around for the first linebacker that shows. We'll read the defensive end, and it's a great job of executing. We almost get a piece of that linebacker, but he's able to actually make the tackle. But if we get a bigger piece of that linebacker, this team might still be running because Tyler Buckner's speed can go.
This is the kind of stuff that in year 2, are you seeing him pick up even more of the offense, and now he's starting to diagnose things on his own that he can have more wrinkles added to the playbook?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the ability for him and Coach Reese to be on the same page in terms of what they're able to do, what they're looking for. And again, this is just a great job of executing. It's more than just Tyler, but with Mayer to be able to kick that guy, the corner out, he can read the end. It's a pull read. He pulls the ball, and we almost take it for a huge gain.
Welcome back to the Marcus Freeman Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com. It's now time for this week's Look Ahead, where we highlight Notre Dame's upcoming opponent.
Welcome back. We're now joined by Bill Reese as we get a chance to take a look at our Look Ahead segment as we preview the following week in Notre Dame football. It's once again great to be joined by Bill. Appreciate you doing this for us this season. I want to talk first about that Ohio State game. There was obviously so much hype and anticipation, not just last week, Bill, but really the last 8 months. Anytime these two teams get together, which has not been frequent really over the course of their storied history, there's certainly going to be a lot of attention. There was tons of attention in prime time on that Saturday night. It was a game that Notre Dame led deep into the third quarter. I thought that even though, and Coach Freeman said this in his press conference, the team didn't get the result that they wanted and they expected and strive for, there was a great element of compete on display. They really competed at a high level, and I think they left Columbus at least with their heads held high after a tough loss.
Before the game, we were coming in, and you could obviously feel the excitement that was in the air. It was a heavyweight fight, and two teams that have great respect for one another, and we were looking forward to it. We came up short, but we had a lot of valuable lessons learned, and we're going to be a better team for that experience. And it's on to the next game. It's on to Marshall, but it was a heavyweight fight. There was no question about that.
Let's talk about some of that experience gained by the team in particular. And let's start on the offensive side of the ball. There was plenty of intrigue, I think, coming into this year, understandably, about Tyler Buckner. Everyone got to see him in small doses last year, but now the question was, how would he handle the full-time role as the starter? And I think there was no better indication than how ready he was in that first play of the game when he stared down that corner blitz and delivered a strike to Lorenzo Styles for the big first pass. I think right then everyone kind of knew, okay, he's ready for this. He started 8 for his first 8. He seemed really comfortable out there. What was your impression of Tyler in his first career start?
You're really impressed. And there are a lot of things that, don't show up in the box score, so to speak. His ability to, control the offense. And we had one procedure call in one of the loudest stadiums you could ever imagine, and that was by a wide receiver. He did a great job with the checks, with getting everything in, getting everything right. He showed great toughness standing in the pocket. We saw last year how aggressive he was as a runner, and he showed that as well. He made some terrific throws. He's only going to grow in every area. He's very competitive. He's very smart. He's just going to become, a very complete quarterback, and we're lucky to have him.
One position I want to focus on a little bit too is wide receiver. There's of course some injury issues there and a couple players that moved on after last year. So some new faces and some young faces having to step up. The one guy that made really an outstanding catch was Matt Salerno, someone that fans have heard and seen here and there, but he was thrust into a much bigger role in a huge hostile environment. And he came up with one of the biggest catches of the game. Just from that position group, but specifically Matt to step up in that situation, what did that mean to that offensive unit?
Well, he truly is the next man in, and he's been given a great opportunity, and he's taken full advantage of it. A year ago, he returned punts, so he's been able to stand back and do that role extremely well. And when he's called upon, the offense, the coaches, the players all have great respect for him, great confidence in him, and he did make a great catch, kept the drive alive, got us down in great field position. So I would expect Matt to continue in his role and continue to be productive as the season moves on.
The running game, when you look at the numbers at the end of the game, just 76 yards on 30 carries going against an obviously very talented Ohio State defense. So I'm sure that the team will maybe look for more production, but it still seemed like when they needed to run in between the tackles, there were some really good bright spots. Audric Estime scored the only touchdown of the game for Notre Dame, but he seemed like a guy that, his physical presence really stuck out last year, but he seems to even have improved as a runner, looks more confident out there. What'd you see from the running backs, in particular Audric, in this game?
The running back room is really talented. And you mentioned Audric, his combination of power, elusiveness for a big back is really been impressive. All three of the backs catch the ball very well this season because of his shoulder injury, but I would expect Logan to really make a big impact as we move along here. So all three of those backs are going to have big roles. Coach McCullough really has a specific idea of how he wants to use them, and they're going to really complement one another as we move forward.
Let's look at the other side of the ball. This is obviously a story in the offseason was, of course, Coach Freeman taking the head coaching job. So maybe overshadowed a little bit was new defensive coordinator Al Golden coming in, who has all kinds of experience. And one of the big storylines of the offseason, Bill, was how is Notre Dame or really anybody going to keep up with all the talented skill position players for Ohio State? And the defense did more than just acquit themselves well. They did a fantastic job, at least in my eyes, of really containing so many skilled players on the outside. What was your takeaway from the defense's performance overall on Saturday night?
Well, Al Golden, along with the entire defensive staff, really had a great game plan on Saturday night. And they really utilized the depth that we have on defense. There were some newcomers, obviously a couple of freshman corners that Coach Wilkins has, great confidence in. They were out there and they played well. But all in all, it was a really good game plan to utilize the strengths of our players. And, the safeties really did a nice job. DJ Brown and guys, I'm going to forget. Tariq Brissett, when he was in at nickel, was outstanding. So they really all, complemented one another. There was a great understanding, a great awareness. They had really outstanding communication from the front to the back. Really it was an impressive debut. And, again, it's hard to communicate in that type of atmosphere. And our defense really did a great job.
You took the name out of my mouth. I wanted to ask you about in particular was Tariq Brissett. He's been a name that just kind of slowly every single year he's been on campus, you hear more and more of. And to me, this was the first time in watching a game where he popped multiple times, like you said, in the slot, in the nickel, really making some big third down stops. And as you mentioned, you have some young guys in that secondary too. So when you have someone like Tariq making the strides he has, it seems to maybe take some of the pressure off the young guys as well. What in particular stood out from Tariq in this game?
Well, he's really playing with great confidence. And, he's been around a while. He's seen it all. He's played inside. He's played outside. He's played in the field. He's done all kinds of things. that have been, really productive for him. And he's capitalizing on it as a senior. He's making plays. He was matched up with, arguably the best receiver in the country, and doesn't blink. And again, that whole room has a confidence about him. And Cam Hart, was nursing a hamstring for a little while, came back, had a couple plays I'm sure he wants back, but at the same time, overall, played well. So, that's going to happen against a team like Ohio State. They're going to get their receptions, they're going to get some yards, but at the end of the day, we really did a good job of keeping their explosiveness in check.
Last one I have before we move on to Marshall, and it's just a general question about how a team handles a loss like this and moves forward. Because again, Coach Freeman was quick to point it out. There's no losses that you really try to hang your hat on. It's still a loss, but there are plenty of positives, as we've just talked about, you can take away from this. You've been around the game for a while. The teams that do build upon losses earlier in the season, what do they have to do to make sure that they do turn it into a positive going forward?
Well, I think, you have to learn from what, the experience was and where you can get better. And as a team, where can you grow? And I think there was plenty of that within the leadership of our football team to say, look, this is only one game. We've got a ton of games left. We can accomplish all the goals that we want to accomplish this season. That hasn't been taken away from us. We got to take it one game at a time. And, we're a talented team. We're going to learn from this and, just get better every week. That's going to be the goal. But we really have good leaders on the team. And, they're quick to point out, hey, one game doesn't, define your season. And yeah, no one's happy that we didn't win the game on Saturday night, but there's plenty of opportunities to make, real gains here as the season moves on.
All right, as we get a chance to look at week 2 now, to me, it's one of the games that I've probably neglected more than any in my time covering Notre Dame football because there's been so much attention paid to this Ohio State game. But now you got to look at Marshall. Interestingly, it's the first ever meeting between these two teams, which is rare for Notre Dame considering how many teams they've played over the course of their storied history. They come in off a really dominant performance against Norfolk State, an FCS team in week 1 where they put up more than 50 points. It's the second year under Charles Huff. Just in general, what does Marshall bring to the table in the second year under Coach Huff?
Marshall is a program that is really used to winning. They've won a lot of games throughout their history. They've got a very strong tradition. A lot of great players have come from Marshall. Obviously, Randy Moss is the first name that you think of, but they really have had success at all levels of their program. They've been in different conferences, but they have, gone toe to toe with, some very, very prominent teams. And last year they went to a bowl game. They're expecting even bigger things this year. So it'll be an interesting matchup because they're going to come in here. They're not going to be intimidated at all. They're not going to be bug-eyed when they walk through the stadium doors. They're going to be ready to play, and they're going to play with an edge.
When you look at the offensive side of the ball for this team, again, what can Notre Dame fans expect to see when the defense lines up against the Herd on Saturday?
Well, one thing that is in question right now is the availability of their running back, Rasheen Ali. Mm-hmm. He has taken a leave of absence from the team, so we're not really sure what his status would be. And, hope everything's okay with him. Hope it's nothing serious. But at the same time, this is an extremely talented running back. He was 10th in the country last year in rushing. He was over 1,400 yards. He caught over 40 passes. He's going to be, a fairly high draft choice. He's really seen very positively by the NFL scouts. He's quick. He's fast. He's a home run threat. He's got good size. He's over 200 pounds. He's an elite back. And if they don't have him Saturday, that'll be a blow to them. But, they've done a nice job of filling their needs. They picked up a transfer quarterback from Texas Tech, Columbia, who started 9 games at Tech. He's a, big, strong arm pocket passer that can distribute the ball well. They've got an excellent wide receiver in Gamage. who has great size, highly productive, over 70 catches a year ago. So, he can probably play for anybody in the country. He just happens to be at Marshall. So these guys are going to come in, not intimidated, like I said, and on offense, they'll be able to move the ball. And if Ali is in the backfield, that'll make a real difference for him.
And then when you look at the other side of the ball, as Notre Dame's offense gets a chance to look at the Marshall defense, what kind of scheme will they throw at the Irish, and what will the key be for Notre Dame's offense going up against that defense on Saturday?
Well, it'll be similar to what we saw at Ohio State a little bit, 4-2-5. The big thing about Marshall is they really have some edge players, linebackers, corners that are really the strength of their defense. They have two edge rushers in Cumberland and Porter that, can sack the quarterback. They're a little undersized, but they're very disruptive, very quick. And then they have really a pair of outstanding linebackers in Beauplan and Neal, who were their first and second leading tacklers from a year ago. They are, fast, explosive. I think between the two of them, they combined for 9 sacks a year ago. So when they see an open crease, they're going to take it and put pressure on the quarterback. And they're sideline to sideline guys. They're very athletic. And then in the secondary, they have two really elite corners. They've got a guy named Stephen Gilmore and Micah Abraham, who have been 2- and 3-year starters for them. Very quick. They're long. Both guys are, 6'1" plus. Both guys play with a lot of confidence, a lot of swagger to them. They'll take a gamble. They'll, go for the ball, but they have combined for over 20 PBUs a year ago. So they get their hands on a lot of balls, and they're very good, secondary players that, again, could probably play for anybody. So the edge is, kind of the area that really stands out for them. Their pass rushers, their ability at inside linebacker to, blitz off the edge, to run from sideline to sideline, and then two really good corners.
Bill, the last question I have for you is a little bit more of a big picture one. It seems like it's another game where there's a first for Marcus Freeman as he coached his first game last year in the bowl game, then his first regular season game against his former school, and now he's got his first home game. He was talking today in his press conference. He kind of admitted how excited he is to get a chance to finally take this team out of that storied tunnel. I think anytime a new football season rolls around in South Bend, there's plenty of excitement. But this obviously is going to have a little bit of a different feel just around the building and around the program as you guys get a little bit closer to this occasion. Where's the excitement level out for this team to get a chance to run behind their new head coach on Saturday?
Well, I think there is a great deal of excitement. I think players want to make sure that his home opener is successful and it's one that's going to be remembered and meaningful to him. But I think just more importantly, he liked the players and the team to come out, play well, play with excitement, play with enthusiasm, and really reflect where this program is going and where it's headed. And I expect that to happen on Saturday. And all in all, I know he's excited, but he keeps everything in perspective. It's not going to, be the last time he runs through there. So he's really looking forward to it. So it'll be great. It'll be a great opportunity and a great day.
Bill, as always, great to have you. Appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you next week.
Sounds great. Thanks, Tony.
We now present the highlights from a recent Coach Freeman press conference.
Marcus, please give us a little bit of a scouting report on this Marshall team that you face on Saturday and what concerns you the most about them.
Well, I think they're a extremely well-coached team. You don't see them making a lot of mistakes, and it's a credit to Coach Huff and his staff. And defensively, they're aggressive. They're attacking. Their D-line is extremely explosive. They play really hard, and I think they're really good at what they do coverage-wise. You see them play a little zone, a couple of different two-high coverages, and then they'll get and they'll pressure and play some cover one. And so what they do defensively is they play fast, they're aggressive. They're a scrappy bunch that's going to present a lot of challenges. Before I get to their offense, I'll go special teams wise. They almost rushed every punt last week, and they almost blocked a couple of them. And so that's something they've shown even in the past year under Coach Huff to do. And so we have to be prepared. We got to be able to protect our punter and make sure that we're able to protect versus all the different looks and aggressiveness they have on their special teams units. And offensively, it all starts with the quarterback. Obviously being an older guy that's played at Utah State and played at Texas Tech and, a coach's kid, he makes good decisions. He's athletic. He can throw it. I think he presents a lot of issues. I don't know exactly what's going on with the running back, if he'll play or not. He didn't play last week, Ali. But, the LeBourne guy, the number 8, he's a good player. He stepped in and did a heck of a job, and he's a Florida State transfer. And so we know what type of football player he is. And I think their tight ends by committee have done a good job. It's an older group and they're wideouts. There's some explosiveness in terms of what they bring to the game. And so we know it's a challenge. We know we're going to face a motivated team. We're going to face a team that's going to come in here and they're not going to be intimidated. They're going to be ready to go. They're a scrappy bunch. And so I really, really like our week of preparation and the focus that our players have had since really when we got back on Monday and got together and watched the film and put the Ohio State game to rest. And it really turned our focus to Marshall. I really, really think the preparation has been pretty good.
Next question will be from Mike Berardino.
All right. Hey, Marcus. The idea that you and Coach Huff will be the first time 2 black coaches have faced off at Notre Dame Stadium. Coach Willingham had that happen on the road. What sort of message do you hope will be sent out there to any aspiring coaches and decision makers when you 2 face off on Saturday?
I didn't know that until you just brought that up, Mike. But I think what a great representation it is for young minority coaches, young and old, and that, if you work hard, you do things the right way, there's no cap to where you can go in this profession of coaching. And so credit to Coach Huff and where he's come from and the job he's done. But hopefully the focus is obviously on the game, but I think it's a great representation of minority coaches in the coaching profession.
Next question will be from Eric Hansen.
Hey, Coach. I wondered if you could update us on the status of Jarrett Patterson and also give us kind of a glimpse into what the week was like for the rest of the offensive line group.
Yeah, Jarrett has practiced every day, and we are expecting him to play on Saturday, and unless something crazy happens in the next 48 hours. But he's had a good week of practice. The offensive line group has had a really good week. They're challenged. They were not happy with their overall performance from the Ohio State game. And it's a group that has some older guys, with Lugg, Josh Lugg and Jay Pat and, some guys that have played football that take a lot of pride in their performance. And Zeke Carrell, obviously being an older guy too. And so, the 2 tackles, Joe and Blake are continuing to follow their lead. And so they take a lot of pride in their performance, and they've had a great week of practice, and I'm looking forward to seeing them play on Saturday.
Next question will be from Tim Prister.
Coach, what aspect or what, as far as the return game, the punt and kick return game from last week, excuse me, what are your points of emphasis with those 2 areas this week?
Well, I think it starts with kickoff return. We have to improve our execution on a kickoff return. And I think Coach Mason be the first to admit that I think we overthought a little bit in terms of our plan versus Ohio State. It obviously didn't, the execution of it wasn't what you wanted to start two series inside the 20-yard line. that you had a chance to return the ball is not up to our standard. And so we've worked on it. I think we have a really good plan in terms of what we want to do in our kickoff return game. As far as punt return, we've just encouraged Brandon Joseph to continue to make good decisions, but be aggressive, and you got to trust your instincts. And if you think you got a chance to return a punt, man, then you have to do it. And so we feel really confident in him as our punt returner. We want to encourage him to be more aggressive in terms of the return game. Listen, it's all about getting the ball back, but which we did versus Ohio State. But if we have a chance to be aggressive and make big plays, we want to do that.
Reminder to use the please raise hand function if you have any more questions. Mike Borodino, back to you.
Thanks. The idea of the mindset of a team that's going somewhere on a guarantee game, you would have experienced that earlier in your career. I think even Cincinnati may have had some of those. Kent, what does that do, do you think, for a team when, in terms of a rallying point, that, well, they're paying us to go there, and it happens throughout the game, but the next couple of weeks you're going to face opponents in those circumstances?
Yeah, that's a good question, Mike. I've never heard it called a guaranteed game, but I like it. Listen, I've been on the other side, and when you're the underdog, right, and you have a chip on your shoulder, but it's the mindset of believing you can come in here and win. And that's what you do when you're a competitor, when you're a leader and you're a coach. You make sure your team has the mindset and belief that they can come in and win the football game. And I'm sure, 100% sure, that Marshall will come in here with that mindset. And our kids, our players respect that. Our players respect the team that's coming in here on Saturday because they've shown it on film. Right? They put it on film that they're a really good football team. They're a talented football team that's going to be hungry, and I'm sure they're going to be fearless. And so we have to make sure that we are aggressive from the start. And this isn't a game that, we're going to try to ease our way. And no, we're going to be aggressive from the start. And we want to make sure that our players, this is about us performing to our standard. And that's what I've been challenging with all week, is that we have a standard the way we practice and a standard in terms of the way we perform. It has nothing to do with who we're playing against and what week we are in terms of practice and preparation. And so it's a challenge for our group to perform on Saturday to the standard we set.
The next question will come from Tyler Horka.
Hey, Marcus, obviously the game plan against Ohio State was to run the ball, control the clock, all those things that have been harped on over and over. But I'm curious, as you play teams like Marshall and going forward, how do you strike a balance between wanting to stick to your identity, which is still that, running the ball, and trying to get Tyler Buckner a little more involved and obviously his receivers involved in that passing game as well?
Yeah, I think that the mindset maybe isn't as much to just control the clock this week and limit the offensive possessions. We want to be aggressive on offense, and I look forward to seeing what our offense does on Saturday. They're going to be aggressive, and we're going to take some shots. And again, we still, as you said to start this question, our identity is still, to me, it starts with the run game and the ability to run the football. But we will be aggressive on offense. I look forward to seeing what this offense does on Saturday.
Next question will be from Patrick Engel.
Marcus, in talking to Riley Mills a couple of days ago, he seemed still pretty confident the defense, and particularly the defensive line, was going to be a strength like it had looked like last year and had been talked as such all offseason. What have you noticed in that group's demeanor after a game, and particularly a final drive, that I imagine might have left a bad taste in their mouths?
Yeah, I would hope they're just like their coach, and they're hungry, and they're not satisfied with the performance of last week. And that's been the message. And I think, they'll follow after Coach Washington's lead. And there's a lot of different learning opportunities from the game versus Ohio State, which I know we're all teaching from, and we're all making sure that our guys understand it. Again, there's a standard of the way we play defense, a standard of the way we play football here. And there was points where we performed to that standard last week, but there was also points in that game when it mattered the most where we didn't. And that's the challenge is when it matters the most, when the game's on the line late in the game, we have to perform and execute to the standard that we've set. And so it will be a challenge. Continues to be a challenge, is that, we have to execute for 4 quarters. We have to continue to perform to the expectations that we have as a football program. And so we have to continue to get better. And that's what I challenge the group, is that last week to me has to be the floor. It has to be, to me, the foundation of what this football team can be about. We have to get better in terms of our overall performance than we performed last week, and that's will be our challenge.
Next question will be from Pete Sampson.
Marcus, I was interested in sort of messaging this week, the idea of being consistent in your message versus like reacting to what happened at Ohio State, how you balance those two things as you try to set an identity, but also you try to learn and improve from what happened in Columbus.
Yeah, I think it starts on Monday when you have to revisit that game. You have to revisit and look at the learning opportunities that were all over the field from that game. And then the next challenge is to prepare better than you did the week before, right? In the weeks leading up to that Ohio State game. And as I've said previously, it's not that difficult to motivate a team to prepare when you have the number 2 team in the country coming up on Saturday. Well, Marshall isn't the number 2 team in the country, but the challenge for me to our team and our coaching staff was we have to enhance the way we prepare. And I believe that it was intentional. I believe that our leadership flourished this week, and that we challenged each other to perform and practice at a higher level. And, that's to me, Pete, is that there's a standard. There's a standard in the way we do things in practice, a standard in the way we perform. And that's what I just continue to challenge our football program with was, does it matter who we play, or does it matter what the standards has been set? And it's our job to make sure we're performing and preparing to those standards.
Next question will come from ABC 57.
Hey, Marcus, Levon Whitaker. Obviously, Buckner had no turnovers in that game against Ohio State. But if you guys are able to open up the run game and then allowing you to open up the passing game as well, what does that do for his confidence moving forward in this season?
Yeah, I was really pleased with his decision making in the last game versus Ohio State, and obviously the ability to not turning the ball over is so important. But as I challenge Tyler and the entire quarterback room, is we have to continue to make plays. And we made some plays. He starts off the game 8 for 8, but, we have to make those plays again when it matters the most. And that's at the end of the game when the game's on the line, no matter if we're up 3 or down 4, we have to make those plays. And so we left a lot of plays on the field that we didn't execute to where we expect to execute. And so that's the challenge. The playbook's open. Again, the parameters probably from the head coach aren't as tight as they were last week in terms of wanting to continue to control the clock, keep the ball in play, keep the clock running. I want to be able to take advantage of the different looks that the defense is going to give us this week and have a plan and not be afraid to take shots and not be afraid to take advantage of those different opportunities that they're going to give us.
Final question today will come from Tim O'Malley.
Coach, I know Joe Wilkins appeared briefly, and I don't believe Deion Colsley at all. Is it a situation where you think they are going to be ready soon? And is that where you want to be, where you can rotate all of your 7-8 receivers in as much as possible to keep people fresh over the course of the season?
Yeah, that would be ideal, is to be able to roll multiple different wideouts in, keep them fresh. But we're only going to do it as long as we feel like it's what's best for our offense. And, Joe is continuing to heal. He's ahead of schedule, and he's continuing to gain confidence in his foot and heal. And, I hope that he goes out and he can perform at the level that he feels he can do, and the coaching staff expects him to. And so he's had a good week of practice. Again, his foot will continue to be a focal point for us to make sure that, hey, we're continuing to heal this foot, and that it can help him, obviously perform at the level that he obviously truly aspires to do. And so, Tim, I really hope that we can rotate a lot of different guys. Cozy is not truly 100% yet. He's not at the performance level that, he aspires to be at. And so for him, it's continuously to be a gradual progression to getting to him to the point where, he's going to be a part of, playing as much as some of the guys that are starting right now.
Coach, we spent 8 months thinking about Ohio State. There's still 11 games left in the regular season schedule. Your first home game here. You got a good Marshall team coming to town. As you guys now turn the page and focus on them, what's going to be the biggest keys you get set this week?
Well, I think you can turn on the film and you'll know right away that this is a talented football team. I think their quarterback only missed 2 throws last week, and their defense held Norfolk State to 100-something yards. And so it's going to be a challenge. This is a team that's, I think, 8-6 in its last 14 games. So we'll understand the challenge we have. This is a motivated football team, and I'm talking about Notre Dame. And that, one game will not determine the future of what this season will be about. They've worked their tails off to prepare for 12 guaranteed opportunities, and they understand that you can't waste one. And so we look forward to seeing this group in Notre Dame Stadium. The first time for us as a group to go out here, and it's going to be exciting. This is a special place to play. We understand that, and so we got to be ready to perform.
It's your third game as a head coach, but there's still one more first. You're going to get a chance to lead this team out of the tunnel at home at Notre Dame Stadium for the first time in your career. As you get prepared to do that, what's going through your head?
I hate thinking about myself sometimes, but this is something that selfishly will be special for me. The first real opportunity to lead this group, this football program, and this group of seniors out into Notre Dame Stadium will be extremely exciting. It's humbling to think about, and I'm just so excited for them. This is the reward, right? When you work so hard for so many days, game day is your reward, and this is why they work so hard for. So I'm excited to watch them perform on Saturday versus Marshall.
Coach, appreciate it. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, thank you.
You're listening to The Marcus Freeman Show, presented by the experts at TireRack.com.